Want help to grow your business? Download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, my name is Pip Mackay and welcome to NLP for Business, where we look at the communication tools and mindset for business success and personal well-being. And today we're looking at a very important topic in business, and that's how to become a master negotiator and create win-win solutions. Now, when I was a lot younger, I didn't really think that I was very good at negotiation. And when you're not good at something, I realised that's not a fact. That just means that I need to go on a learning journey. And so I registered for a Sydney University course, and that was all about negotiation. And partway through that course, I had also registered for NLP. So I had to miss a whole section of the course at Sydney University because I was off studying NLP. And in the end, I came back towards the very end of the course. And what the negotiation setup was half of the room were some unions looking for a pay rise, and the other half of the room were the bosses looking to not have a pay rise. So that was kind of the negotiation that was happening. And because I hadn't been there, they decided to make me the team leader and for us to look at the negotiations. Now, I just learned all these negotiation skills at NLP, so I didn't have their negotiation skills, so I just applied what I knew. And what I looked at was, what did people want from the pay rise? What was the purpose? What was going on in their lives? I asked a lot of questions. And then I looked at common agreement. I think we can both agree that we want the business to stay in business whilst you get paid fairly for what is going on for you. And then we just looked at how could we make that happen as a brainstorming ideas session between us. And then we just came to an agreement. Now, the whole process took about, half an hour to 3/4 of an hour, and the lecturer at Sydney University who was running it and teaching everybody about negotiation, he was astounded. He said that never in a group had the negotiation been resolved so quickly. And even though this was just a made-up situation, it was exactly the same made-up situation that he'd had year in, year out for the course that he taught. And yet this was still the fastest that had been resolved. And basically he was looking at me going, well, where did you learn your negotiation skills? Because I can see that you led that. And so I was like, well, great, I don't need to go to any more negotiation skills courses because I've learnt what I needed to learn at NLP, and that these are really advanced and wonderful negotiation skills. So let's have a little look at what we're going to cover. So we're going to look at the 7 best tactics for negotiation that NLP talks about. We're going to look at how to create win-win solutions so you maintain relationships. And this is really important because if you've got a supplier and you bargain too hard with them, they may decide not to supply you anymore. And they may be the best supplier. So now you've ruined the relationship, and now all of a sudden you might have won that little battle, but you've completely lost the war. So, that's not a very useful situation to have. How to maintain rapport whilst you disagree. So how can you make sure that you're putting your point of view across, but not in a way that is making the other person feel angry or upset and heightening the whole emotions of the situation? Effective communication strategies for negotiation. What's the best strategies? What are the 3 things that you need to make sure that you're doing or not doing? And finally, how to deal with intimidation so you can stand your ground. So I'll let you in on a little secret. Sometimes people aren't really wanting to negotiate, they're just wanting to play a power game with you. And what do you do in those circumstances so that you make sure you're not being taken advantage of? So we're going to look at a whole process in terms of getting win-win solutions. So this is a solution where both people walk away happy that they feel like they've got their needs met inside the negotiation process. And I remember when I very first read a book about negotiation, they gave an example which I thought was fantastic. So basically they said, say two people are arguing about an orange. They both want an orange. Well, either one person has the orange and the other person doesn't, and that's a win-lose. Or you cut the orange in half and that's a compromise. But say if you ask the other person, what do you want the orange for? And the other person says, well, I want the zest so I can bake a cake. And you then say, oh, well, I want the juice so I can have a drink of orange juice. Now you can both get exactly what you want from the same orange without compromise and without win-lose. And that seems like a very simple example, but it is incredible in negotiations how often people don't ask a single question. They assume they know what the other person wants and why they want it. And so there's no option to find a win-win. Now, sometimes you need to compromise. There isn't a place for a win-win. But it's surprising how often you can actually get a win-win if you're willing to ask questions and you're willing to come up with creative solutions. And that's what this is all about. And in this way, you get to maintain your relationships. Everybody walks away happy, and that person's happy to do business with you the next time. So the very first part of it is to establish rapport. So rapport is a process of, how to win friends and influence people. That's like the easiest way to understand what rapport is. It's where the person feels like you're on similar ground, that you both like and respect each other, and they're also more likely to want to enter into a win-win negotiation when they feel like there's some sort of common ground between you, that they like you, that they respect you, and vice versa, you respect them and you like them as well. It doesn't have to be that you like the person, but basically you feel like maybe there's some common ground that is possible. So how do we establish rapport? Well, if they're all sitting forward in the negotiation table, well, you sit forward as well. I mean, it's not rocket science, but it's basically a lot of these gestures makes the other person feel like, hey, you're on the same side as me. Whereas if you're sitting back like this, where, your hand behind your head and they're all sitting forward, well, you just look like you're not interested and maybe that you're really arrogant. But if they're all sitting back like this and you're sitting forward, then they're going to think, wow, this person's too eager, and that might mean that they don't respect you as much. So basically sit in a similar way to their sitting, and this creates a place of trust because it feels like you're all on the same side doing the same thing. So that's really important. And then gestures. If you happen to be in a company which had a lot of people talked with a lot of gestures, maybe they're Italian or Greek or something, and they speak with a lot of gestures, well then, when you speak, you do a lot of gestures. Not when they're speaking, of course, then you're listening. But when you speak, you're going to be more demonstrative than normal. But say you're working with a Japanese company and they've got almost no gestures at all. Well, you can see you're going to blow them out of the water if you're suddenly doing all these gestures. So you want to have much quieter, more subtle gestures yourself. And that makes them feel like, you're on the same page as them, that you understand their culture and what's going on. And that means they're much more likely to want to enter in, again, as I said, with a win-win situation. Then your tone of voice. This can be really important for some people. So some people, your postures and gestures are more important, but other people, your tone of voice is. So I don't know if you've ever had someone say, hey, look, don't speak to me in that tone of voice. So just watch your tone of voice. If they're very quiet spoken, you want to be quiet spoken. If they're very loud, you want to be louder than what you would normally be. Obviously not doing things that are unnatural, but just kind of matching what it is that they're doing. And then key words. If there's somebody who talks about customers, then you talk about customers. If there's someone who talks about clients, then you talk about clients. If there's somebody who talks about things are tremendous, then you might want to drop that in. Not mimicking, not all the time, but just showing, hey, I understand your corporate culture, I understand what's going on for you, and we're on the same page, we're similar. And so this is the very first and most important thing. Often in negotiation, people are very nervous about the negotiation and they find that their postures, gestures, tone of voice and keywords have got nothing to do with the other side, and suddenly there's a whole oppositional energy that simply doesn't need to be there. So that's the very first and most important point. The next thing is ask questions. Find out what they want. Don't assume you know. People are complex. They're motivated by all kinds of different things. See if you can really find out what's going on. So find out what they want, first of all. Then find out the purpose or intention or outcome of the person's position. So, for instance, the person might want to get a pay rise because they want a new car or they need a second car. Well, maybe a second car could be part of what you do with the whole, there's a whole lot of things that you can do which gives you a tax deduction. If you provide a company car for them, maybe that's going to be better for your tax and you find that they get what they want and you get what you want without costing the company the same amount as what a pay rise would be. So, these are all sorts of things that you want to look at. What is the purpose? What will that give you if you get a pay rise? What are you looking for from that? What is the purpose of that? It might be that their kids are suddenly going to high school and now they want to pay for a private high school. So again, this is something that can be part of the package that you give them, and there may be things there that would be better for them when you know exactly what it is that they want. So asking questions, and not just about what it is, but the intention underneath what it is, or the purpose above what it is that they want. And then find common ground for agreement. So after all, if somebody wants a pay rise but the company goes bankrupt and they lose their job, that's not going to be good either for the company or for them. Now the pay rise has cost them their entire job anyway. So this is a piece of common ground. You can understand that the other person should be paid fairly and have a quality of life for the work that they're doing, because that's what adds to the company. If they leave, you're going to have to spend a lot of money going through the whole process. But at the same time, they need to understand that the company has particular cash flow going on and that somehow there needs to be some sort of negotiation around that. So obviously the easiest thing to do if the person is a salesperson is you can link bonuses to them bringing in more money to the company, and then that makes it a lot easier for them to get a pay rise if that's what's going on. But it's amazing how many other things people might want. So somebody might be happy to forego a pay rise if they get Wednesday afternoon off. So I worked with a woman, and what happened was her boss was someone who was very tight on money. He didn't really want to be giving a pay rise, but she was sort of heading towards retirement. So a pay rise wasn't her really big thing. But what she did want was time off, but she didn't want to get paid less for the time off that she had. So then she was able to say, well, what about you give me a $5 an hour pay rise and I take Wednesday afternoon off. Now I'm getting paid the same wage, but I'm getting what I want, which is time off to have some freedom to do what I want to do. So you can see again, with these sort of questions and understanding what's going on for people, you might find that you can get what you want whilst giving the other person what they want. But it's very rare that people actually do this in negotiation. So sometimes it might be around buying a house. So sometimes, it's all about the price, but then it might be, well, do you know what? I really love the mirrors that you've got in the house. So I'm willing to pay that price if you give me all the mirrors that are in the house, which I know are valued at like $3,000 or $4,000, and the person might not want to take the mirrors to their new house. So this is great for them. You don't have to buy mirrors. They don't get to have to take those mirrors to where they're going. So these are all different things. If you're asking questions, you can start to understand how you can gain a win-win. Now, this is another really important aspect, and that is no immediate retort. So say somebody says something, maybe they give you an offer and you think that offer is absurd. And there's a part of you inside going, oh my goodness, that's ridiculous. Who do you think I am? Do you think I'm an idiot that I'm going to accept an offer like that? That's not going to be very useful in the negotiation process. So what do we do instead? Listen and ask questions so the person feels heard. So say they say something that you think is, absurd. Instead of just going in.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.